So these are just a few reminders to talk about the basic concepts of the pitch. And I'm going to talk about the technique parts first of it. And we all agreed as a group that it was our best idea to take the bottom of the club, and I just called it the bounce. And we wanted the bounce to be able to slide across the top of the grass. And then everybody noticed that as sliding the club across the top of the grass, the top of the handle kind of stopped and actually started pointing back. Or we realized that it's not the best idea to try to keep the sweet spot behind the club head. It's okay to let it pass. We're actually encouraging you to let it pass, to make it easier to take the bounce again and slide it across the grass. And like all shots, where we decide that the bottom of the club is going to interact with the ground is pretty important, or that low point's a pretty big deal. So when we're hitting this shot, I directed most people to do their best to take that bottom of the club and make it touch right where the ball currently is. So when we were doing the full swing shot, I was directing people to try to brush the grass just in front of the ball. Now for the pitch, I'm directing you to try to brush it just underneath the ball, or currently where the ball is. So we developed some skill games for you to improve the ability of where you're going to take that bounce and glide it across the ground. And we simply took one of the towels that's available for us on the carts, one of the wet towels, and we got 2 folds in it. So you can see how the towel's folded in this decorative stitch area here is kind of where the golf ball will be when we decide to introduce a golf ball with it. And this thing is actually kind of targeted or aimed towards a target. And then this is also, like I said, this is also kind of aimed or targeted, and we have a flag stick on this short game area green at Mountain Park here that is targeted towards. So this is what the exercise looks like. I'm just brushing the grass, and I'm kind of being aware of where I'm brushing the grass, and then I'm trying not to hit the towel on my downstroke. After I get pretty competent at that task, well, I'm just going to introduce the ball. And again, I'm going to try my hardest. My goal is to make the bottom of the club touch the ground where I'd like it to touch the ground. I'm doing my best not to get over concerned about the golf ball. I'm just trying to make that bottom of the club skid across the ground where I want it to skid across the ground. And this is just a reminder of some of the big picture concepts to go along with the idea that yes, we'd love to take that club head and have it glide or slide just across the top of the grass. But in this shot, the pitch, we're not looking for power. So this is not overhand throw with arm speed. This is more like underhand toss. And you can actually practice by facing your target and tossing some golf balls up towards where you'd like them to go. It's also going to help you picture trajectory and that land and roll concept. If you recall too, we talked about where to play the ball off the body, and we made some recommendations or to kind of match some components up. So if you figured that your best spot for you was somewhere behind the midline of your body, so I'm a right-handed golfer, behind my midline of my body is on my right side, in front of the midline of my body is on the left side. So we decided that it was a good idea if we decided to move the ball closer to the back side of the body, that we should move in a little closer and raise the handle a little bit, because then that made it more difficult for your wrists to hinge up and down, and it made it more likely that your wrist would hinge side to side. And even with the ball back, you can still brush the grass effectively. If you play the ball back and you're far away and you start to hinge upward, it can kind of be dangerous, at least for that good low point control and that ball contact. And then if we're deciding that we like the ball a little more forward, or we like to launch it a little bit higher, or land and then not roll so far, that it's okay to move a little bit further away as we move the ball forward to brush the grass. So I'm going to show you with both techniques, or with the ball a little bit back in my stance, I'm going to move up a little bit closer, and my wrist won't hinge as much vertically. They still may work a little bit in the horizontal fashion, so I can skid that ball or skid the bounce across the ground. And I'm going to play my shot to the second target. So I expect this ball to launch a little bit lower and spin a little bit less. So I have to plan a good landing spot for that idea. And I'm going to use my eyes to help me figure that out, to understand what it might feel like to make that stroke. So now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to move it forward, or we'll say that one is the Stricker technique. Those are the two golfers that we used, and this is more of the Sergio technique. So we've talked about technique, and once you kind of feel pretty good about your technique, you want to start to translate that idea into skill. So this is a skill building game that's fun to play. I'm going to do my best here, so I have the whole length of this green. The first shot I'm going to hit, I'm going to try to get my first ball as close to the far fringe as I possibly can. So now my next shot, I'm going to try to bring somewhere between 5 and 10 feet closer than that ball. So I'm hitting a different shot, not the same shot. So the next one I'm going to try to get it 5 to 10 feet closer than the last one. So the skill here is, hey, can I have my ball land somewhere and then roll somewhere, but always be a little bit shorter of the previous one that I hit. And I'm going to see how many I can stack up between the far fringe and the front fringe. And then that's going to give me a baseline number. So say the first time I play the game, I get 5 balls between the far fringe and the front fringe, either before I failed to hit one a little bit shorter or I ran out of room. So the next time I play the game, I want to try to get 6. So this skill game is a little bit different. It's where you are focusing more on the landing spot of that particular golf ball. Because if you remember, all these shots, they kind of start the same way. You need to see a spot where it's going to land, and then you need to be able to figure out where it's going to roll to after it lands. So that first game we played, that ladder game from back to front, was both land and roll. This skill game is particularly based on where you want the ball to land. So I've set up these 2 little ball pyramids out there on the green, and my first attempt, I'm going to try to knock over the second ball pyramid. My second attempt, I'm going to try to knock over the first ball pyramid. Whether I do or not, I'm not going to get too worked up about it. I'm just going to really have this help me focus my attention on that landing spot. It's going to help me get a feel for the stroke I need to make to land my ball on that pyramid. And if I aim small, well, I can miss small too. So sometimes I may not land it exactly where I like to, but the overall shot is okay. I'm going to try one to that front one now too. Again, not going to the same target twice. I'm switching my targets around. Got a nice little rehearsal process. That's the feel that I think I need to land my ball on that particular pyramid.